Welcome to BNEWS Weekly. I'm Phil Gallagher, along with BNEWS Director Rich Hosford, BNEWS reporters Tad Stefanak, John Vias, and Robert Paris, Peter Brown with the weather, and Gretchen Carey with the community calendar. Thank you for joining us. As previously reported, most of eastern Massachusetts is under what the Department of Energy and Environmental Affairs terms a Level 2 significant drought, a designation that prompts mitigating steps, including watering bans. BNEWS Director Rich Hosford spoke with DPW Director John Sanchez to get an update on the situation here in Burlington and files this report.
Due to a drought that is covering most of eastern Massachusetts, Burlington is currently under a full watering ban, meaning residents can only water lawns and plants by hand instead of using automated systems or sprinklers. DPW Director John Sanchez explains that even with a limited connection to the MWRA through Arlington, the current conditions could get much worse if residents and businesses don't adhere to the watering restrictions.
Obviously, we are in a full water ban. And we don't take those lightly. I mean, we only do water bans where we need to. And unfortunately, I mean, everybody has seen the news, everybody reading the paper, there is a drought going on in eastern Massachusetts. Because of that, we have to have a full outdoor watering ban in place. Now, again, why? Because of the limited resources we currently have. At the rate that we typically use water in the summertime, we will be with no water at the Mill Pond Reservoir before the end of the season. So right now, with the full water ban in place and the little water that we get through the emergency connection, we'll be able to weather the storm. We do ask for people to please continue to abide by the water ban in place. The demand normally goes up when it's dry, and that's when we don't have the water to actually supply the demand.
Finally, Sanchez said it's not just about the amount of water currently in the reservoir, but is a regional issue that includes the source of Mill Pond's water.
So the water, again, that we use on the Mill Pond Reservoir comes from the Shoshin River in Billerica. And we're only allowed to take water from the river when the flow's out of a certain capacity. Right now, if you actually drive on 3A, CANbridge Street, which becomes Boston Road in Billerica, you notice that the Shoshin River is mostly dry. So we have to wait for at least 3 days of high flows before we're actually able to utilize that water and fill the reservoir. As a way of comparison, last year, by mid-July, we were almost full in the reservoir. That's why, if you remember last year, there was not an issue with watering or water heat in town. This year, we're down like 8 feet from the top. So it's a quite big difference in how much water we have utilized this year as we were here at the same time last year.
I'm BNews Director Rich Hosford.
A survey of Burlington High School and middle school students shows that some have difficulty in participating in extracurricular activities due to a lack of transportation, and that others feel unsafe when walking to or from school. The student survey was a point of discussion at Wednesday evening's Transportation Committee meeting. It was conducted in 2021 and came about as a collaboration between the committee and the Burlington High School Club Burlington Against Racism Youth. The club identified the issue of inequity of socioeconomic status of students' families as being a factor in access to transportation and wanted to get more concrete data and student testimonials to examine the problem. The report on the survey is an analysis of 1,184 responses from students at Burlington High School and Marshall Simons Middle School. The survey asked students how their access to transportation options impacts their participation in after-school activities. 13% of students report that a lack of transportation has prevented them from engaging in school-sponsored activities. 45% of students say they would participate in more school activities if they had the transportation necessary to do so. Almost 25% of students said they have taken the late bus, but many report that routes are extremely long and that buses are often unavailable when most needed. Students report missing practices and tryouts because they have no transportation. The report also highlights some issues students say they face trying to walk or ride a bike to school. Some students shared that there aren't enough sidewalks. Students also say they sometimes have to cross streets without crosswalks. Others report feeling unsafe walking home when activities end after sunset. Some students simply live too far away to walk to school. Members of the Transportation Committee said that while they don't have any immediate solutions, the report on the survey is something they feel they need to address. 45% of students say they would participate in more activities if they had access to transportation. That says it all, member Catherine Bond said, who is the liaison from the school committee. The report will be discussed at future meetings. Since July 1985 has been recognized nationally as Parks and Recreation Month, July also happens to be the busiest time for Burlington Parks and Recreation, launching and coordinating their extensive programs, events, and activities. To recognize the work of the department, the Select Board recently passed Burlington Parks and Rec with a presented Burlington Parks and Recs with a proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month during one of their recent meetings. Here is member Mike Espeo reading the proclamation.
The Town of Burlington, Commonwealth of Massachusetts proclaims that whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Burlington, Massachusetts, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's, and whereas Parks and Rec encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles, and whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental educations are critical to a childhood development, and whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction, and whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change, whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas Burlington, Mass. Recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Burlington Select Board that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month for the town of Burlington, Massachusetts.
The town of Burlington has been putting its Mass Bio Platinum rating to good use, most recently adding CANbridge Therapeutics to the life science roster. The company had a ribbon-cutting ceremony, and BNEWS reporter Tad Stefanak was there and has this look.
On the count of three, they're going to cut, and everyone's smiling. 1, 2, 3.
Burlington is earning its chops as a biotech hub with the addition of CANbridge, developing and delivering life-changing therapeutics.
So CANbridge is actually a global rare disease-focused biopharma company with a strong operating base in China. We're also considered the first and the pioneer of a rare disease biotech company come out of China.
We're really excited about CANbridge, which is just the most recent life sciences company to choose Burlington for their lab needs. And it's for us, we've worked really hard as a community, involved many partners, town meeting, our elected and appointed officials, and our local organizations like the Chamber and Middlesex 3.
The Chamber is kind of the liaison between the business community and the town and helps to get their employees connected with the resources that are here in town.
We were founded with a purpose to bridge the Western medicines with the unmet medical needs in Asia, in particular in China. Now we think we actually can serve as a bridge between innovations and the patients' unmet need, not just in China and Asia, but also all over the world.
On behalf of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and on behalf of Burlington, we appreciate that there are other places in Massachusetts that you could have chosen, and we think that you're here among other life sciences companies and that you benefit from that ecosystem as well.
And it's really an affirmation of all the work that we've done over the past few years to try to attract companies like CANbridge to Burlington, and it's really exciting for us to actually see it happening.
It's great to see all of the work that the town and the Chamber have done to welcome life science companies into town, to see them coming in.
We previously have office in Kendall Square and a lab in Natick, and we like to consolidate it by building and using this integrated facility in Burlington, which we believe that we actually could have a first mover advantage as the town will become the next bottling biotech hub in Massachusetts.
Cheers.
Cheers.
From CANbridge's new location in Burlington, I'm BNews reporter Tad Stefanak.
A nuisance violation hearing at last week's Board of Health meeting that focused on a commercial parking lot that often floods became slightly confrontational, even as all parties agreed they wanted to work together to find a solution. The item at hand was part of the parking lot for the shops at Mall Road, formerly known as Vinebrook Plaza, at 111 Middlesex Turnpike, that routinely floods and has been an intermittent issue for many years. Health Director Susan Luminello said that in 2004 there was an order of conditions placed on it by the Conservation Commission that the drainage must be inspected once a year due to the issue of flooding. Since that time, occasional cleaning of detention and other basins have temporarily worked in easing the problem, but no long-term solution has been put into place. Representatives from the company that owns the property, Brixmore, said they have studied the issue with field surveys and engineering analysis, but have not been able to determine the exact cause of the flooding. Luminello suggested that perhaps a more thorough cleaning of the drainage system, including pipes located underneath the parking lot, would help the situation. DPW Director John Sanchez said the spillway from the retention basin in the area of the flooding is 2 or 3 feet wide, while the original plans call for one that was closer to 20 feet wide, and perhaps that should be addressed. Conservation Administrator John Keeley said that another business located in the same wetland as this parking lot saw their lot sink due to the wet ground, and that something similar could be going on here. Attorney Mark Vaughn said they would look into those suggestions. However, members of the board pressed that this is a long-standing situation and they want to see results sooner rather than later. Vice Chairman David McSweeney asked why this has not been given more attention after it has been a point of complaint from the community.
Let me ask you this, if there was a huge sinkhole that opened up in the middle of your parking lot next to Wendy's, would you, and not know where it came from, how it existed, or where it came, would you fix it?
Oh, sure, yeah, sure.
So why is this not a top priority after 5 or 6 years to get it fixed?
Board Chair Ed Weiner suggested that if the problem is not fixed, perhaps the area of the parking lot that floods should be fenced off and no longer used. Vaughn said it would be difficult because the lot is a valuable asset for Brixmore. In the end, they agreed to continue the hearing until a meeting of August 23rd, with the understanding the company will work with engineers to attempt to find a more long-lasting solution. For those of you who have been here for a while, this is a 50-year-old problem, with the original 2 buildings that were built on that site actually collapsing into the ground to a large degree. It's also less than 100 yards away from the Great Meadow, which frequently floods. Burlington's Mill Pond Conservation Area got a bit bigger thanks to a donation of a piece of wetland that includes a vernal pool that will be protected to help the amphibian population and hiking trails for residents. BNEWS reporter Rich Hosford went to the dedication of the new parcel and files this report.
Burlington's protected conservation land just got a little bit bigger. Last Wednesday, a group gathered at a newly donated piece of conservation land for a dedication ceremony and a few words. The land was donated by GTH Homes, a local developer who are building a new 3-home cul-de-sac in the area and did not have a commercial use for the wetlands that abutted their project, but were part of the land purchase deal. GTH Homes principal Greg Hickok said he was glad the arrangements could be worked out and that the land would be given to the town for protection.
What we did when this property's been the same family for 100 years. When it came available, I looked into buying the property, my partner and I and Bob Richard. And when I went to conservation and told them, here's what I'm thinking on doing, I could see the disappointment in John's face, John Keeley, the head of conservation. So I said to him, John, look, if I buy this land, I'll make sure the town gets some of it back. I'll take what I need and I'll give some of it back. He looked skeptical, but here we are today, and I feel blessed that we had the opportunity to give back to the town, which town of Burlington has been great to us. So.
The entrance for the new parcel is near the intersection of Chandler Road and Harris Drive, but what makes it particularly exciting for the Conservation Department is that it extends on the existing Mill Pond Conservation Area.
Which is terrific for the Conservation Commission because it abuts our nicest conservation area. The Mill Pond Conservation Area is 140 acres of open space that surrounds the Mill Pond Reservoir. Everybody in town knows the Mill Pond Reservoir. They don't realize that there's 140 acres of woodland all around it. Most people just go walk around the reservoir. So we've got all these beautiful trails out here. So it means more land for the conservation area, more access for the people in this neighborhood who don't have to get in their cars and drive to the treatment plant or something to get to a trail. They can walk out there. out their door and walk up the street and get into the woods immediately. So it's a win-win.
Connecting conservation areas make them more attractive for recreational uses.
Rather than having a lot of little tiny small conservation areas, which are fragmented habitat and not much use for actually recreation. If an area is too small, people aren't going to go there and spend 5 minutes walking. But if you make our other conservation areas larger, it increases the recreational potential of the conservation areas. It just makes them a more enjoyable experience for the people in the town.
The 1.6-acre area also has some helpful features for conservation, perhaps most notably this vernal pool, a type of pool that is full of water in the spring but mostly dry for the rest of the year, making it an ideal location for amphibians because the pools can support their eggs but not the fish who would otherwise dine on those eggs.
These vernal pools are extremely important for our amphibian population, as is the woodland around it, because they spend the rest of the year outside of their egg-laying period in the spring out in the forest. So it's tremendously important for the wildlife in the conservation area.
Finally, Greg said he is excited to share this piece of land with the community.
I appreciate the people, all the volunteers that try to protect the land. When I first saw the land and I walked it, I was amazed how beautiful it is. The trails back there, you feel like you're up in the White Mountains sometimes. I think people would be shocked if they did the walk back there, how beautiful it is. So I really wanted, when we acquired the property, we decided we got to protect this land. And I know by donating it to conservation, it'll be protected forever. So that's what I'm excited about.
From the new conservation land that is now part of the Mill Pond Conservation Area, I'm BNews Director Rich Hosford.
Burlington's 4th of July parade returned for the 2022 holiday, with the committee honoring former committee member, the late Don Flaherty, by awarding a new kind of trophy in Don's name to the group with the best float. BNews reporter John Vias has this look.
Patriotism swells in the heart of Burlington once again as the town favorite 4th of July parade made its triumphant return. A big day with marching bands, vintage cars, first-person responders, scouts, Shriners, clowns, small business owners, and enthusiastic citizens all around. A good 4th of July parade isn't possible without a 4th of July parade committee. Co-chair Mike Runyon expresses his excitement for the return of a highly anticipated town favorite.
COVID was a killer for everybody. We were able to, pull off like a little rolling rally thing last year, but it's back to the traditional parade and the traditional parade route and everything. People were lining the streets. They were thrilled to be out there again doing what we've traditionally done here in Burlington.
This year's parade was something special, as the committee honored the late Don Flaherty, a longtime member of the committee who loved the town of Burlington.
You know what, I love talking about Don Flaherty. When I first approached Don about the parade, he was very enthusiastic. He was just a go-getter. He was so instrumental in helping us organize. And then the day of the parade, I don't know what we would have done without him. He would use this golf cart you see behind me and his bullhorn, and he'd go up and down the parade route, make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. I just can't say enough about him. We missed him terribly this year. Whatever Don Flaherty involved himself in here in Burlington, he gave 110%.
And who better to announce the winner of the 4th of July parade's new Don Flaherty Best of Show Award than Don's wife, Sheila Flaherty.
Sheila, who do you think would be the winner of this year's float?
I'm going to say it's Raj, the Tiki Float.
Raj, the Tiki Float, is this year's winner of the Burlington 4th of July Parade Don Flaherty Best of Show 2022 award. What would you think would have been a highlight for Don?
So much. I mean, he just loved walking the whole route, riding in the route, just talking to people, seeing all the people.
Yeah.
He liked it all. I couldn't pick one. He loved this parade. He did it every year. He put so much heart and soul into it.
It's just good to be back to normal. I can't think of another event that attracts such a wide variety of spectators, from toddlers to adults. It's just a great event. I'm glad to be part of it, and we're already looking forward to next year.
Be sure to catch full coverage of the 2022 4th of July parade right here on BCAT. Hosted by Gretchen Carey and Chris Rose. And stay tuned for the next episode of Linda McNamee's Something to Talk About, where Linda, along with Don's son Chris Flaherty and the show's production crew, walk the parade and show off the Something to Talk About float. From the American Legion on Wynn Street, this is John Vias for BNews Weekly.
Very loud.
Pretty sure they did that on purpose.
Yep.
Leaders at the Burlington Public Library said they are pleased to announce that they have partnered with the Perkins School for the Blind's Braille and Talking Book Library to make a digital talking book player and books on cassette available to borrow as part of the Library of Things program. The digital talking book player and books on cassettes were made available beginning in early June. The talking book player is the latest technology used for playing talking books, special audio books designed for people who are unable to print books because of a disability, to use print books, excuse me. The talking book player features large, easy-to-use buttons and verbal assistance. Patrons can borrow the talking book player and accompanying books on cassette to try out the technology for themselves or their loved ones. Those who qualify to borrow the talking book player include anyone unable to read print books due to a disability such as blindness, arthritis, multiple sclerosis, complications from stroke, and learning disabilities such as dyslexia. The talking book player and cassettes are on permanent loan to the Burlington Public Library, courtesy of Perkins Braille and Talking Book Library. Those who qualify can also apply to Perkins to be mailed a free talking book player and cassettes for personal use. Applications are available at the Burlington Public Library Reference Desk or on the Burlington Public Library website. Burlington's 12U baseball team held a 12U Cal Ripken tournament at Simons Park that began on July 1st with 8 other districts from the 12U teams around the state. BNEWS reporter Robert Paris has this report.
The 12U 2022 Cal Ripken tournament was right here in Burlington, up at Simons Park, featuring 8 district teams from around the state.
Yeah, the short version is it starts with district tournaments from all around Eastern Mass. There's 8 districts. From those district tournaments, teams play, and the winners of those tournaments advance to the state tournament. The tournament's made up locally. It's Burlington, Bedford, Winchester. Then we have Marblehead, Dedham, Weymouth, Old Rochester, which is down by Plymouth, and Somerset. Really all of Eastern Mass is represented. Burlington, as host, did not have to qualify. As a host, you get an automatic bid to the tournament. So it'll be us and 7 other teams.
With this being the last time these group of kids compete on the Cal Ripken team, Brian's son Evan has enjoyed every moment on and off the field, as well as working with his dad.
He loves it. He's been on the Ripken team since he was 7 years old, actually. He made the 8-year-old team as a 7. And has kind of been a fixture on the team since. It's kind of bittersweet because this is 12-year-old year. This is a lot of times for 12-year-olds, baseball kind of ends it here. He'll continue playing for sure. I may not have the opportunity to coach him, so having the opportunity to coach him at a state tournament up here at Simons, where we have spent countless hours over the last 6 years, is a pretty sweet way to finish out.
It's been fun, but also he's been really hard on me because he wants to succeed. Yeah, we've just stepped up and took the challenge and done well with it, having fun and being with all my friends and just a good time.
Mikey Kelly has been an athlete in the BBSA since he was 5 to 6 years old in T-ball. Now with the last hurrah around the corner, he is looking back on his team's experiences.
Everyone's helpful, everyone's a good sport, and they're all good people. I'm gonna miss probably hanging out with my teammates, having fun with our special group because we're a great group of friends.
Here is a recap on how Burlington has been doing in the 2022 Cal Ripken State Tournament. In their first game against District 5 Somerset, the Devils scored 6 times around the diamond in the 6-3 win. Next, Burlington competed over D7 Marblehead. The Devils scored another 6 runs over their opponent as they won by a score of 6-2. Burlington and Weymouth were both inching their way to the state tournament. The Devils outscored them in an 8-3 victory. Brian is proud of how far his team has come in the tournament and is looking forward to seeing the crowd cheer on the Red Devils.
For me, still, there's no better atmosphere than being at Simons Park with half the town out here cheering us on. So that's what I'm hoping for.
From Simons Park, I'm Robert Paris for BNews Sports.
As of this taping, the team is competing against Weymouth in the championship game. We'll have coverage of that game in next week's news. We go now to BNews weatherman Peter Brown for a look at the forecast for next week ahead, for the week ahead. We'll also check out the community calendar, see what's happening in Burlington.
Well, hello everyone, this is Peter Brown with your weather for the next 7 days. Here we are heading in towards the second week of July. I hope you all had a very happy 4th of July. We had some great weather out there, a little bit on the warm side. You know, for those of us who really like the warm weather, it was great out there and much less rain than we're expecting. So I know for those of you who have some thirsty gardens out there, that wasn't the best situation that developed, as it really stayed pretty dry around here in the Burlington area. Now, as we start our period on Friday, we're going to be seeing temperatures nearly 10 degrees below average, I'm thinking right now. Maybe some showery conditions, temperatures again only in the mid to upper 70s. As we round out the period getting in towards next Thursday, when our average highs at this time of the year should be in the mid to upper 80s, we're probably going to be a few degrees shy of that, probably in the lower 80s, and again, maybe some spotty showers around. Now, our days are starting to get shorter and shorter as we head through summer, and if you notice our length of days, we have lost, on average, about 10 to 15 minutes worth of daytime since the middle of June, so that's the one thing that I think most of us really don't like about the summer, is the days start to get shorter, but other than that, everything is A-okay with us. So as we go ahead, let's take a look at what the Climate Prediction Center is calling for us here in the Burlington area over the next 7 to 10 days in terms of temperatures and precipitation. And look at the temperature map. Looks like they're expecting for us here in the Burlington area and all of New England, most of the Northeast, in fact, to have average conditions, average temperatures. That's pretty much what I'm seeing. And the same holds true for the precipitation chances around here. Now, if you go out into the Berkshires, they may see a little bit more in terms of rainfall. That often happens when we get into the hilly terrain, the mountains. Doesn't look like we're going to get quite as much of that. Unfortunately, it looks like our grass and our flowers and everything are going to be staying pretty dry still, and we are still in a fairly decent drought right here in the Burlington area, so we have to really keep an eye on that as we head deeper into the summer. So as we go ahead, let's take a look at those 7 days of weather coming up, and again, starting out on Friday, again, spotty showers again. This doesn't look like anything too organized in terms of a real rain system coming in that we really need to see here in the Burlington area. Temperatures, again, a little bit cooler, only in the mid to upper 70s. Then as we get into the weekend, the sun is going to come blazing out. It is going to be warm and, again, bone dry out there, folks. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you know that a lot of places around the Burlington area have outdoor watering bans. Unfortunately, those gardens are going to have to continue to suffer until we get any appreciable rain. But again, if you're heading out there to the beaches, it is going to be a beautiful weekend in the low to mid 80s. Now, as we get into the start of the work week, again, we continue those pleasant conditions and temperatures getting a little bit warmer as we get to the middle of the week, maybe up into the upper 80s before we start to cool it down a bit on Thursday with showery conditions coming back and temperatures down back around 80 to 82 degrees. So everyone, get out there, enjoy the weather, and have a great week.
Hi, I'm Amy Poehler, and you're watching BCAT. Go Red Devils!
Hey everyone, I'm Gretchen Carey, and this is your community calendar. On July 14th at 4 p.m., the Burlington Public Library will be having a DIY mini volcanoes. For more information and to register, go to burlingtonpubliclibrary.org. On July 15th at 8:30 p.m., the Merrimack Valley Pavilion in Tewksbury will be having a drive-in movie. The Croods New Age will be shown. For more information and tickets, go to the following website. On July 16th and 17th, the Burlington Parks and Recreation Department will be having their annual Rahanis Park Open. Everyone is welcome to compete in the event. To register and for more information, go to burlingtonrecreation.org.
Another week, another photo to highlight. This week's photo was another example of nature's beauty found in everyday places. It was sent in by Mary Elaine Leach and shows a bee getting some nectar from the flower of a thistle plant located in the parking lot of her work. It's amazing what you can see all around if you take a moment to look. Thanks for the photo, Mary. We'd like to see your photos. They could be of your summer activities, families and pets, the weather outside your front door, or anything else you'd like to share. Email your photos to bcat@bcattv.org with the subject line Photo of the Week. And that's it from the news desk here at BNEWS Weekly. I'm Phil Gallagher, along with Rich Hosford, Tad Stefanak, John Vias, Robert Paris, Peter Brown, and Gretchen Carey. Thank you for joining us.